Let's make sure I'm recording because the last time I did not. Let's get started. So, Matt Gaetz has found himself in some hot water. Matt Gaetz is being accused of sex trafficking a 17-year-old, and he claims to be innocent. And I believe him to be telling the truth. I believe he is innocent. I believe he is a guilty victim, if that makes any sense. And it's going to take some mental gymnastics to explain why he is or could possibly be a guilty victim. But first, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. It helps with the algorithm. From the Hill, Republicans quietly say Gaetz's days in Congress are numbered. Through it all, Gaetz has maintained his innocence. The 38-year-old firebrand has vehemently denied any wrongdoing, asserting that he has not had any inappropriate relationships with a minor and has never paid for sex. So, one of the things for sex trafficking a minor in the charges is if you pay for airfare or hotel for a minor in exchange for anything that is considered having paid for sex. Now, if you do that for an adult, that's called having a girlfriend. So, if he believed that this girl was of age, then he's like, I never paid for sex. Just because we went on a flight together and then we had sex, that's not me paying for sex. But in the eyes of the law, that is paying for sex. So, like I said, I'm going to be playing some mental gymnastics later to describe how he's a guilty victim, essentially, of what's going on. And it's going to take some splaining. It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that it is not the case. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family, he said during an appearance on Tucker Carlson Tonight on Tuesday. On Friday, Gaetz shot down rumors that he was stepping down from his seat, telling The Hill it's very safe to say that he has no plans to resign from Congress. Gaetz says that he is the victim in this unsavory saga, arguing that he and his father, a former president of the Florida State Senate, have been targeted by several men, including a former DOJ official seeking funds to rescue Robert Levinson, a former CIA agent who went missing in Iran in 2007. Gaetz claims that those men sought to extort $25 million from his father in exchange for having any looming charges against younger Gaetz dropped. I know there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he could make the investigation go away, along with his co-conspirators. In interviews with various news outlets this week, all three men implicated by Gaetz have denied any involvement in an extortion effort. Well, of course they would, because extortion is a crime. Why would they go on networks and saying, oh yeah, we extorted the Gaetz family for $25 million. Please arrest me. I'm admitting to it on national TV. Oh yes. It doesn't, guys, come on. So you can say they have denied involvement, but guilty people tend to lie. People who would extort a politician and his family for $25 million after potentially setting him up would also be willing to lie to the press. It's not that, it doesn't take a stretch of imagination to come up with that conclusion, guys. From Arthur Bloom, leaked text from an Israeli consular official show more details on Gaetz Levinson funding scheme. 3 screenshots of text between Scott Adams and Jake Novak of the Israeli consulate in New York City were shared with TAC. The messages were authenticated by one of the parties to them. In the first screenshot, Novak messaged Adams last Saturday to tell him about the investigation into Gaetz. The New York Times story on the Gaetz investigation was not published until Tuesday. In the second, Novak appears to represent himself as deeply involved in the efforts to free Bob Levinson from Iran, telling Adams this is screwing up my efforts to free Bob Levinson. Gaetz' dad was secretly finding us, he continues, so I'm very much wanting this to be untrue. I've got a commando team leader friend of mine nervously waiting for the wire transfers to clear. In the third screenshot, Novak casts doubts on Gaetz' claims that he is being extorted. The real documents do not extort, he writes, and we only asked for $25 million as an estimate at first. We came way down. So it's still extortion, whether or not you ask for $25 million or $2 million. If you're asking for money in exchange for suppressing information that would solely or dirty Gaetz' family name, that is extortion, and that is a crime. But people are kind of glossing over this sentence right here. I've got a commando team leader friend of mine nervously waiting for the wire transfers to clear. And why is that? Probably so he can go into Iran to free Bob Levinson. So maybe we should have the government investigate as to why these people are hiring some ex-Delta Force guys to run a black book fiction. This is disturbing. And you have the text, you have the evidence. Maybe we should look into this, because this is probably more of a problem for our country than what's happening with Matt Gaetz. And I'll explain why here in a second. From Ann Coulter, well, this is going to put a big hole in Fox News' lineup. His friend has been singing to the feds. That's why Matt is so freaked out. Gaetz' arrest is imminent as jail tax collector Joel Greenberg faces charges of having sex with same 17-year-old and making fake IDs with congressmen. The investigation into Matt Gaetz is linked into his friendship with Joel Greenberg, a Florida tax collector currently in jail waiting trial on sex trafficking charges. It emerged Tuesday that Gaetz is under investigation by the DOJ over allegedly having sex with a girl 17 2 years ago. Further allegations surfaced Thursday claiming Gaetz had paid for sex with women who Greenberg allegedly met on sugar daddy sites. So, if Greenberg met this 17-year-old girl on a sugar daddy site, then who's the victim? Is it the 17-year-old girl who lied about her age, who claimed that she was probably 19 or 20? Or is it Greenberg? Who's the victim in that situation? The girl who lied about her age or Greenberg? I don't know. And not just that. So this girl is 19 or she claims to be 19 or 20. She meets him on the sugar daddy website and he creates a fake ID for her so they can go out clubbing in Florida. Because if you've ever lived in Florida, that's what you do. If you live in Miami or Tampa or any one of the beaches, you're going to party basically every day because the weather is fantastic and everybody's attractive. That's the way it works. So, and I'll explain my theory more in detail here in a second. The 17-year-old girl at the center of the sex trafficking probe is the same girl Greenberg has accused of sex trafficking, says sources. New report Friday revealed Gaetz caught the attention of investigators after he was seen accompanying Greenberg during a late-night visit to a tax office. So the girl Greenberg has accused of sex trafficking. So what the DOJ views as sex trafficking a minor is if you pay for like a hotel, or if you pay for air travel, or if you pay for anything with the intention of sex, that is considered sex trafficking. So if you buy somebody clothes, that is considered sex trafficking. But that can also be seen as having a sugar baby or a girlfriend or a wife, to be honest. I'm not going to lie on that one. So you have this going on. And you have this Greenberg guy who probably doesn't know this girl's 17 if she lied about her age. The DOJ has metadata, thanks to the Patriot Act, knowing that this girl is 17. But Greenberg doesn't have that metadata. He's basically going off of the information she provides, basically saying that, hey, I'm probably 19 or 20. So are we punishing the crime or are we punishing the intent? You can be a guilty victim in this situation. And that's what I exactly believe Matt Gaetz is. So Matt Gaetz is revealed. Gaetz is caught the intention of already said that. Greenberg is charged with identity theft after allegedly making fake IDs. Gaetz, who has not been charged with any crimes, is expected to be indicted within the next few weeks. All right, guys. So my theory, and you know I've been I'm kind of 10 for 10 on this. Batting 1,000, if you would. So my theory is Greenberg meets the 17-year-old girl. 17-year-old girl says she's 19 or 20. Greenberg is thirsty, if you would. He wants to take her out to the bar, and he knows he needs to make her a fake ID to go to the bar. So he makes her a fake ID saying she's 21. He has a real good time with her. And he tells his buddy Matt, he's like, hey, here's this great, hot, young girl. She likes to party. She likes to have a good time. She's insert whatever here, right? Whatever bro locker room talk you want to insert, you can insert that there. So Matt takes her out for a spin, which is not uncommon for people like this. So Greenberg probably doesn't tell Matt that she's underage, as in 19 or 20, like Greenberg believes she is. He probably says nothing. And she has that 21-year-old ID. So Matt Gaetz flies her out on an event 2 years ago when she was 17. That's why Matt Gaetz says, I have the evidence to prove that I never flew with a 17-year-old girl. If it's the girl that I think you're talking about, well, she was 21 years old. I have the flight logs to prove it. And there is the problem. Matt Gaetz is separated by 2 layers of lies and a DOJ who is sitting allowing this girl to be sex trafficked. If they believe this girl to be the victim in this situation, why are they watching and allowing her to basically be trafficked across state lines? The FBI should have picked her up at the airport. That is the FBI's job. That is the Department of Justice's job. I don't understand. So the DOJ caught wind of this. And if you want to be real nefarious, they knew Greenberg was a friend of Gaetz, and they basically said, Greenberg, implicate Gaetz, and we will take it easy on you. Stupidity is not a defense. That's what they told him. Which I believe stupidity is a defense, actually, with a jury of 12, especially if you have evidence that the person lied, right? So implicate Gaetz, and he implicated Gaetz. And that's why Greenberg is singing to the feds, because he doesn't want to go to jail as a pedophile, right? Because they tend not to survive their time in jail. And therein lies the problem. So this person is motivated by fear, by both the DOJ and being in prison for sex trafficking a minor for something he didn't believe he did to begin with. And then he's implicating a good friend, Matt Gaetz, so the DOJ can then extort him for $25 million. So that is the nefarious conspiracy theory. But what I believe is Greenberg met what he thought was a 20-year-old girl, say 20 years old in 6 months. He didn't want to wait 6 months to take her out for a drink, so he made her a fake ID. He had a good time with her, wanted his buddy Matt to have a good time with her as well, because he knew Matt had money and she was all about partying and having nice things. So he got Matt involved, and the DOJ seized on that opportunity to extort Matt Gaetz's family. If the FBI was involved in the investigation like they said they were, they would have, or if they hadn't been involved in the investigation like the Gaetz family claim, they would come out and say that that's the case, but they aren't. So that's extremely important. And why do I think this is true? Because, well, here's a picture of a 17-year-old girl. If she had an ID saying that she was 21 years old, I used to be a bartender, I wouldn't doubt it, right? She looks to be 21, 22 and very attractive. She is now 18. So this picture was taken around when she was 17, late 17, early 18 years old. And therein lies the problem. There is the problem. Is Matt Gaetz guilty? Possibly. Is Matt Gaetz the victim? That's very much the possibility as well. So what should happen? What should happen to Matt Gaetz? What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Because honestly, I don't know. I'm one of those where intent is extremely important. If he didn't have the intent to meet a 17-year-old, but that 17-year-old girl lied and said she was 21 and had an ID that said she was 21 and had sex with Matt Gaetz, saying that she was 21, is that Matt Gaetz's fault for not running an FBI background check on her? I don't know. Is that something a jury of 12 need to determine? Possibly. Is that something that could potentially ruin his political career? Well, of course. And it seems pretty convenient that now that Matt Gaetz is gaining a lot of traction and people are saying, what, Matt Gaetz 2024? Now you're seeing allegations like this drop down, or basically drop from the DOJ. But it's also suspicious when his friend is implicated in this as well. And his friend is basically a source into the investigation. So the FBI and the DOJ have a nasty history of entrapment. So who's to say that this isn't all just a one giant setup to get rid of the political opposition? So guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. I'm going to drop another video here in a few hours. I'll see y'all here in a little bit. Have a good one.